fight. Look. Oh. Oh Lord. Look, boy. Oh, hold up. Damn nigga out here. What, they got 5? Oh. Girl shot, bro.
Have you seen my license?
Oh my, I ain't even got my phone. Oh, they done shot this. Oh my God, where they shot her at? Oh. Call 911. Call the ambulance.
Need towels.
Y'all get something. Y'all just watch that corner over there, man. Put pressure on her. Where's she bleeding from?
CJ, look, CJ.
I don't know.
All right, first at 10 tonight, Orlando police arrested one man in connection to the shooting that killed one person and injured 3 others on Mercy Drive on Friday. West News' Liv Johnson learned this first. This is not his first run-in with the law.
The suspect is 23-year-old Delray Shundell Duncan Jr. On Friday, police arrested him for attempted homicide and first-degree felony murder in connection to the shooting. However, this isn't his first run-in with the law. Before being arrested for Friday's shooting on Mercy Drive in Orlando, Delray Duncan Jr. was found guilty of a battery on a juvenile detention staff member back in 2018 and spent 196 days in jail. Nearly 2 years later, in March of 2020, Duncan Jr. was arrested for robbery with a firearm, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, possessing a firearm as a convicted felon, and grand theft in the 3rd degree. Meanwhile, Orlando police are still looking for more people connected to the shooting Delray Jr. was allegedly involved in on Friday. They say it happened around 2:30 in the afternoon at this apartment complex on Mercy Drive. But each victim was found in a different location. The first victim was at the complex and brought to ORMC in critical condition. Then, while police were at the apartment complex, they say they were notified of a possible suspect vehicle that fled the scene. Police started a pursuit that ended on Old Winter Garden Road and Duncan Place. This black Chevy sedan, later seen blocked in by crime scene tape, with significant damage to the front and what appears to be blood outside of it. That's where police say the second gunshot victim was found and transported to the hospital. Then a third victim was dropped off at ORMC, and a fourth victim was later found at Advent South. 22-year-old Michaela Queen Patterson was pronounced dead at the hospital. Police say the other 3 have non-life-threatening injuries.
Why would a disagreement in the middle of a residential courtyard spiral into an eruption of violence so intense that it left a young mother of 2 fighting for her life in a hospital bed she would never leave? What could possibly drive a confrontation to explode into the sound of rapid gunfire, a scramble of bodies, and a desperate high-speed flight through the streets of Orlando? And how did such a dispute, seemingly just another heated neighborhood clash, evolve into a chase and a hail of bullets that ended in the death of someone whose entire future had been laid out before her? This is the devastating case of Michaela Queen Patterson, a 22-year-old mother whose life was cut short under circumstances so chaotic and confusing that even now, many are left wondering whether we've been told everything there is to know. On September 22, 2023, just as the Florida afternoon heat lingered over the city, Michaela's dreams, her plans, her goals, all of it, came to a violent end. A neighborhood that had already known its share of unrest suddenly found itself in the middle of a tragedy that would send ripples far beyond Mercy Drive. The violence that erupted that day didn't just take Michaela's life, it wounded 3 others, tore open fresh wounds in a community already weary from loss, and raised more questions than answers.
Orlando police want you to take a look at these 2 pictures. These are people who are wanted in connection to a murder on Mercy Drive last year.
That's right. West News' Gail Pascal Brown joins us in studio tonight. And Gail, these men are suspected in connection with a murder at an Orlando apartment complex.
You're exactly right. The shooting happened at the Jernigan Gardens Apartments on Mercy Drive. A young woman was killed. 2 other people have been arrested, but Orlando police need your help in finding 2 more suspects.
Take a good look at these photos.
Orlando police released them, and they've been identified as being participants in the shooting at the Jernigan Gardens apartments in Orlando on September 22nd of last year. 22-year-old Michaela Patterson was shot and killed. 3 others were hurt. These black and white pictures from court documents show a fight and guns being pulled out at Jernigan Gardens. Investigators say Michaela Patterson had called her brother and cousin for help because she was being jumped at the apartment complex. When her relatives got there, one of the suspects opened fire, setting off a chain reaction of shots from several other people.
Arrests would follow. A suspect with a troubled past would be taken into custody, and still, the why of it all remains a question heavy in the air. What truly ignited this? Was there more going on beneath the surface than the official accounts suggest? As we walk through the chain of events, we'll uncover unsettling details, more names pulled into the dragnet of arrests, and a tangle of uncertainty that makes the truth feel just out of reach. Orlando, in the heart of Central Florida, is better known to outsiders for its shimmering skyline of theme parks and resorts, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, and endless attractions that pull in millions each year. But beneath the postcard image lies a city grappling with a rise in gun violence, where disputes that might once have ended in shouting matches can now end with bodies on the ground. Over the past several years, police data has painted a grim picture. A steady climb in shootings, neighborhoods punctuated by the sound of gunfire, and families left to pick up the pieces. Michaela Queen Patterson, known to friends by the nickname Ruby Tor, wasn't just another name on the evening news. She was a young woman with a fierce drive, a trained and licensed hairstylist who had a knack for bringing out beauty in others, whether it was with a set of shears, a curling iron, or simply her warmth. She dreamed of becoming a celebrity hairstylist, building a career that could support her family and cement her reputation in the beauty world. Her passion was more than talk. She ran her own business, Torco LLC, selling an array of hair and beauty products while steadily growing her online presence. Her Instagram feed was filled with transformations, style tips, and a loyal base of clients and followers. And yet, none of those achievements came before the role she treasured most, being a mother. Her 2 little boys were her anchor, her motivation for everything, and she documented their lives lovingly, even running a separate Instagram page just for them. They were the reason she kept pushing through life's rough patches, determined to carve out something better. In a notebook at her salon, Michaela had laid out her goals for September, steps toward her dreams, personal changes she wanted to make, and, tellingly, a note about deepening her spiritual journey. She couldn't have known she had just days left. One acquaintance later shared an unsettling message exchange from a few weeks before her death. The sender told Michaela about a dream they'd had, seeing her in a heated argument with a group of women, laughing and repeating, "Y'all lucky I changed," as if refusing to be pulled back into her old ways. The message was a warning. If you're changing, keep going, the devil will try to pull you back. The person even called it a setup. Whether Michaela thought much of it at the time is unknown, but on that late September afternoon, the scene in that dream came chillingly close to reality. The setting for it all, Jernigan Gardens Apartments, a housing complex on Mercy Drive, once called the Palms and Windsor Cove. The buildings had witnessed more than their fair share of violence over the years. Among the headlines tied to the address was a case in which a 10-year-old shot and killed a woman after a dispute, a sobering reminder of how quickly things could escalate here. On September 22nd, the courtyard was busy as usual, children playing, neighbors talking, but somewhere in that crowd, tempers flared. Witness accounts and video clips later pieced together showed a group of women in the midst of a verbal clash, voices rising until the tension spilled into shoving and fists. In the heat of the scuffle, more faces joined in. The scene swelled in size and intensity, onlookers shouting, phones recording. Michaela was among them, whether drawn into the dispute herself or simply too close to avoid it. She could not have imagined that within minutes, the argument would turn into her last moments alive. At 2:34 p.m., the calls began pouring into Orlando's emergency dispatch. A massive fight had broken out, and it wasn't just fists anymore. There was mention of a gun. Witnesses would later tell investigators that several men entered the fray, one brandishing a firearm. Then came the unmistakable sound of shots, rapid, echoing, cutting through the shouts. Panic erupted. People dove for cover, scrambled to get away, children were pulled behind doors. When the firing stopped, 4 people had been hit. Among them, Michaela's injuries were the most severe. She was struck in a way that left her with no chance to flee. She collapsed where she stood, the chaos around her blurring into a haze. Video from the scene shows friends gathering desperately around her, trying to keep her conscious, voices trembling with urgency. The fear was palpable, screams, crying, a frantic scramble for help. Police and medics arrived quickly, rushing the wounded to nearby hospitals. 3 others would survive their injuries. Michaela would not. In the hours that followed, the investigation began. Officers combed the courtyard, marking bullet casings, speaking to neighbors. Eyewitnesses described a chain reaction of aggression, how an argument between women drew in others, how one man pulled a gun, and how the confrontation spiraled beyond anyone's control. Still, the specifics of what exactly Michaela's role in the clash had been, or whether she had even been involved before the shooting began, remained murky. Police confirmed that a suspect was in custody, someone with a history that hinted at prior run-ins with the law. But there were more arrests to come, and whispers that the full scope of what happened that day wasn't yet public knowledge. For a community already familiar with tragedy, the loss of someone so young and deeply loved was another blow. For Michaela's family, it was the kind of wound that never closes. 2 boys will grow up with photos and memories instead of hugs and bedtime stories, and a dreamer's ambitions will never see their chance to unfold. The fight on Mercy Drive had ended in silence, but the questions it raised still hang heavily in the air. The city of Orlando was gripped with fear moments after the chaos erupted at Jernigan Gardens apartments. Police received a critical lead, a description of a vehicle seen speeding away from the scene. It was a black Chevy sedan, now tied to the violence that had just unfolded. Officers immediately sprang into action, tracking the car through the streets of Orlando. What followed was a tense and high-stakes pursuit, weaving through busy intersections and crowded roads. Drivers watched in shock as police vehicles raced after the sedan, sirens blaring. The chase came to a dramatic end at Old Winter Garden Road and Duncan Place. The sedan, its front end mangled from a crash, was surrounded by police tape. Blood stains marked the ground nearby, a haunting reminder of the violence tied to this vehicle. Inside the car, 3 individuals were detained, including 23-year-old Delray Shundale Duncan Jr. One of them was found with a gunshot wound and rushed to the hospital in critical condition. This was the 2nd victim. The 3rd victim was dropped off at OMC, and the 4th victim was later found at Advent South, who happened to be Michaela. She was transported to the Orlando Regional Medical Center, where she was later pronounced deceased. Duncan and the other person were taken into custody. For authorities, this was just the beginning of unraveling a complex case. Duncan faced the most serious charges, first-degree felony murder and multiple counts of attempted homicide. Police believed Duncan was the one who fired the shots that ended Michaela Patterson's life and injured 4 others. The arrests were bolstered by critical pieces of evidence: witness testimonies, surveillance footage from the apartment complex, and forensic analysis played key roles in linking Duncan to the crime. Yet, the investigation was far from straightforward. Conflicting accounts from witnesses made it difficult to piece together a clear narrative. Some were too afraid to speak up, while others offered contradictory stories. Law enforcement had to sift through a maze of statements, trying to separate fact from fiction. And then there was the issue of motive. Why did the fight escalate to such deadly violence? Was it a personal dispute, or something larger simmering beneath the surface? With these arrests, the investigation began to feel as though the tangled threads were finally starting to line up, but the story was still far from complete. The detention of 23-year-old Del Shundale Duncan Jr. marked a turning point in this already tragic case. Yet the question loomed: who exactly is Del Duncan Jr., and what path brought him here? His background with law enforcement told a troubling tale. Back in 2018, Duncan was found guilty of battering a staff member at a juvenile detention center, an offense that landed him behind bars for nearly 200 days. 2 years later, in 2020, his behavior escalated drastically. He faced serious charges: armed robbery, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Even with those convictions on his record, his ties to violent incidents only seemed to deepen. Now, Duncan finds himself facing the heaviest allegations yet: attempted homicide and first-degree felony murder linked to the deadly events on Mercy Drive. As detectives worked through the timeline of that day, Duncan's alleged role became clearer, but a lingering uncertainty remained. Was he the driving force behind the violence, or just another participant caught in the momentum of a volatile and spiraling confrontation? Not long after, the investigation took a sharp and unexpected turn. On October 3, 2023, mere days after the gunfire erupted, authorities arrested 18-year-old Gary Lee Williams II, charging him with first-degree murder involving a firearm. This arrest shifted the focus of the inquiry.
Orlando police announcing a second arrest in a deadly quadruple shooting at an apartment complex. And today he should face a judge. Police shared this video showing Gary Williams III in handcuffs yesterday as officers took him to jail on a first-degree murder charge. Investigators say a large fight led to gunfire back on September 22nd at the Jernigan Gardens apartments off Mercy Drive. 3 victims survived, but 22-year-old Michaela Patterson died at the hospital. Williams, along with Delray Duncan Jr., is being held without bond. Police tell us the investigation is still ongoing.
While attention had primarily been aimed at Duncan, Williams' sudden appearance in the case added another intricate layer. Investigators were forced to reassess the chain of events that began in the courtyard of the Jernigan Gardens apartments. Evidence pointed toward Williams' direct connection to the killing of 22-year-old Michaela Patterson, a loss that sent shockwaves through her family and community. Now authorities began probing whether there was a link between Duncan and Williams prior to the fatal shooting. Were they working together? Did they even know each other before that night? Or was this simply a tragic convergence of separate lives in the wrong place at the wrong time? The uncertainty only fed the mystery, and the case seemed to be growing more complicated rather than clearer. The questions kept piling up. Was Williams a lone actor in his role, or just another thread in a bigger, more dangerous network? The twists in this investigation refused to let up, and it was obvious that what lay beneath the surface might still be hidden. What's your view on this development? Could these two have coordinated their actions, or is there another chapter waiting to be exposed? Share your thoughts in the comments as we continue unraveling the evolving investigation. Even with 2 arrests secured, detectives weren't finished. The killing of Michaela Patterson left too many unanswered questions, and the Orlando Police Department announced they were seeking public assistance in identifying 2 more people believed to be connected to the chaos on Mercy Drive. Releasing photographs of the still unidentified individuals, police urged anyone with information to step forward. A $5,000 reward was put on the table, underscoring the urgency in tracking these suspects down.
So far, 2 young men have been arrested, 18-year-old Gary Williams III and Delray Duncan Jr. Both face charges of murder and attempted murder. Crimeline is offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the arrests of these 2. One of them appears to have a gun tucked in his pants. Take another look. If you recognize these 2 people, call authorities.
Now, anyone with information is urged to call Crimeline. That number is 1-800-423-TIPS, and you can remain anonymous and be eligible to up to $5,000.
The images spread quickly online, across news broadcasts, and on social media feeds, transforming the public into crucial participants in the search for justice. But even that was not the final twist. In March 2024, roughly half a year after the tragedy, a 3rd arrest brought the case back into the headlines. This time it was 18-year-old Christian Amari Childs, facing multiple counts, including attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. His capture marked a significant advancement for investigators, peeling back another layer of this violent saga. Childs' alleged role hinted at a broader plot, raising difficult questions about just how coordinated the entire incident might have been. The picture was getting fuller, but it was far from complete. Authorities stayed steadfast in their mission to bring every last person tied to Michaela's killing to account. Would the $5,000 reward be enough to persuade someone with critical information to come forward? Let us know your take in the comments. We're following this one closely. For Michaela Patterson's loved ones, the impact of her death wasn't just a headline. It was a wound that ran deep and wide. Her mother, holding back tears, described her daughter as a bright, determined young woman with a dream of building a better life for her two little boys. Friends remembered her contagious laughter, her fierce will to succeed, and the pride she took in her growing career as a hairstylist. She had fought for every step toward her goals, and she wasn't done fighting until her life was taken. In the wake of her murder, her Orlando neighborhood came together in grief and solidarity. Vigils lit up the Jernigan Gardens apartments, where neighbors gathered with candles, sharing personal stories and calling for change. Handwritten signs declaring, "Stop the violence," appeared in windows and along sidewalks, standing as silent protests against the cycle of anger and bloodshed. The ripples spread beyond her block, sparking difficult conversations about crime and safety in other vulnerable communities throughout the city. Even in grief, her family found the strength to send a message: Michaela's death must be a turning point. No other family should be forced to endure this kind of loss. The question remains, what steps could prevent such tragedies in the future? Could more accessible intervention programs change the outcome for people on a dangerous path? Some community members voiced practical safety tips, advising residents to steer clear of large outdoor gatherings when tensions are high and to quickly leave any scene where conflict begins. What's your perspective? Let us know in the comments below as we keep Michaela's story alive and push for a safer future. The fight for justice is far from over. Duncan and Williams, both staring down serious accusations, now face the trial process. The courtroom has become the new battlefield. Michaela's family sits at the front, their sorrow visible in every glance, every breath. They listen as the prosecution lays out its evidence, each photograph, each witness statement reopening the pain of their loss. For Michaela's sons, the absence of their mother is a void that will never be filled. Their future is forever altered. Who speaks for them now? Will the verdicts truly bring justice? Both Duncan and Williams have pleaded not guilty. Court records confirm that a pretrial hearing was held for the pair in Orange County on May 21, 2024. The legal process continues. The investigation remains active, and for those already in custody, their fate still hangs in the balance. We'll keep tracking every update as it emerges. Michaela Patterson's story is one of potential stolen too soon. A mother with ambition, a professional in the making, a woman who had so much left to give. But in a single moment of violence, her life ended, and those who loved her were left clinging to memories. Our thoughts remain with her family as they endure this unimaginable loss. As detectives keep piecing together the truth of that night, one thing is certain: her memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew her. Do you believe investigators have done enough to get to the bottom of this? Is the complete story already known, or are there more names and faces still in the shadows? Could there be additional suspects connected to this case who haven't yet been caught? Share your opinion in the comments. We want to hear your voice. This is a story that calls for awareness, discussion, and action. A simple like or share can amplify the demands for justice and keep Michaela's memory from fading. By spreading these stories, we don't just remember the victims. We fight for accountability and safer communities. Let's work together to make sure no life is forgotten. If you're drawn to stories of crime, mystery, and the pursuit of justice, or want to better understand the human stories behind the headlines, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're first to know when we release a new episode. Explore our other videos, join the conversation in the comments, and let's figure out how we can push for a society where these tragedies no longer repeat. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.